Oh my gosh. Alright, kids. I'm having technical difficulties because I'm an idiot and I don't check my audio before twice recording. So now this is even later than I anticipated, and it won't be up until probably tomorrow or past your bedtime. So, microphone not recording in the inputs it's doing. Anyways, this is the third time I'll be doing this, so iterative process. Yay. Pain in my butt. Plus 10. Let's actually check if the audio is going. So we're going to stamp really quick. Oh, it's actually fluctuating. Alright, cool. So we'll ignore that and go back to Maya. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create gym badges. And I'm going to create a complex one because we have 8 people in the class and there's 8 gym badges. Oh my gosh. Alright, this is me being sleep deprived because I want to go to friggin' bed after this. Alright, here we go. Alright, we're going to make this gym badge out of primitive models really quick in Maya. So what this primitive, if we take a look at the shape, these are hexagons, there's multiple, so we can duplicate that. And then these are leaf shapes, which we can probably do something with. And then we can make this a primitive, this stem right here. Take notice of its shape and take notice of how you can mock this up really quickly in Maya using primitives and just using the basics of scale, translation, and rotation within Maya. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to create a stem really quick, and that's going to be the base. And I'm just going to drag the base on the grid. Drag up to set the height. Alright, cool. Thanks, Maya, and your actually good tutorials. Alright, so we've created a stem. Now we need to make this kind of round shape that's underneath all of these hexagons. We can create the hexagons first, but there's no point when the base is connected to this flower type thing that the Japanese drew. Whatever, they know what they're doing. I trust them. So let's go with another primitive, and it's going to be a cylinder, not hollow cylinder, just a regular cylinder up at the top, polygon cylinder, create a polygonal cylinder on the grid. I'm just going to tap the screen, and that already is way too high poly for this mock-up. So I'm going to lower the poly count of this cylinder by going to Inputs, Poly Cylinder 1. I'm going to left click on that, and it's going to bring up radius, height, subdivision axes, subdivision height, subdivision caps, and create UVs, blah, 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 and this stuff. Ignore all this stuff down here. What we're going to do is, so subdivision axes means how many sides there are to this polygon. So there's 20 sides, so there's 20 vertices and 20 edges. Well, there's more than 20 edges, but still. So verts on this object are 42. And that's because there's 2 right here and 20 on the side. So what we're going to do is lower that to 6 because that is how many sides a hexagon is shaped out of. So 6, and you got a hexagon. Sweet, but we actually don't want a hexagon for right now. That's for later. What we want is kind of like an in-between, so let's move that to about 10. And that should be fine for right now, for what this shape, what we're making. Stem, and then this flower type base. So what I want to do next is kind of lower that onto that, even that out somewhere there. And then we are going to, now what we're going to do is use the translation tools and rotation tools and scale tools with another mode inside of Maya, the vertice mode. So we're in object, we're in object mode right now, and what we want to do is go to vertex mode so we can make this shape. Since the cylinder is kind of like the shape that we're going for, we can actually use the marquee tool by left clicking and dragging over the verts that we want. So this top half is what we want to get this ovally type of shape. And we can left click and drag that arrow all the way over here to get this shape, keep that proportionate. So that's kind of big right here. And then what we can do is just, that's it, and that's kind of like the shape, but we kind of need to make that thicker. So what we can do, now that we are in object mode again, we can make this thicker by pressing, because this is kind of thin for this, so it needs to be a bit thicker, so we can go to scale, which is R on the hotkeys, and we can click and drag with left click and kind of make that thicker. I think that's about good thickness. I think that's fine. It's kind of pointy right here, but I honestly think that's fine for right now. These will be covered up later, and it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do now is create another poly primitive, same as a cylinder, except create hexagons this time, just like we did 5 seconds ago. We're going to put that on the map by left-clicking after we just click on that. We're going to go to Inputs, like we did before. I'm going to lower this to 6. Fun note, lower it to 3, make a triangle. 4, make a cube. 5, pentagon. 6, hexagon. This is what we want. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to drag this with translation tool over here and make the start of this flower type of thingamabob, whatever this is. It looks like maybe petals or something. I have no idea if this is an actual flower in Japan or this is a made-up flower that just looks cool. And it's kind of located like right here. It's kind of big. It's not that big. I don't want it cluttering the whole flower, so I'm going to drag it over there. So one of you were talking about, like, how do we know when to use these things? How do we know? It's honestly paying attention to the shape with the associated shapes that Maya already gives you, just to mock these up really quick. And then from there, then you can get a real feel by just practice. It's honestly taking practice and paying attention to shapes and forms and colors and all the other stuff that goes into making a creative, all part of the creative process. So it takes time. It's not just going to happen immediately and you're going to know, oh, I'll choose to make these verts in this way and that way. It's artistic, and it's all based on your knowledge of the tool set and what you can do with it. So let's move on. So we're going to duplicate this shape by pressing Control D, and we're going to move this kind of in that position. We'll rotate that a little bit. So if we can see this image, it's kind of like on the line right here. These are kind of jagged, so it kind of like dips down. So you know there's a off chance, but like an unevenness about it. But if we W translate, that's pretty much what it is right now. I think that's as close as we're going to get for right now. We need to move on. Then we're going to duplicate this again. This time it's a bit smaller than usual, so we're just going to shrink that real quick by pressing R, which is the scale tool. And we're just going to shrink that really quick by dragging it in, left click, and then we're going to actually zoom out a little bit more. That's not exactly smaller, but it's kind of just a tad bit smaller than the previous one. So what we want to do for this time around, you see this point right here on this hexagon? This is where the point will be. It's almost on the point of this one right here. This point right there. So let's line that up. Go back to object mode, and then we can rotate by pressing E. I'm going to rotate that just a slight bit and drag that. We want this actually kind of over this. So let's move that, kind of like that. Move this closer. And we kind of got this star formation going on. This is kind of exactly what's happening here. So now that this is done, I'm going to Control D again. And then we are going to, that's kind of in the perfect place. So we can Control D again. Place that with translation tool. And we can rotate that one. Alt and left click are to change the position of the camera. So remember that. And this is actually not that perfect like I once thought. What we're going to do now is kind of stagger it a little bit. That means this part is off too. Oh no. Alright, so we've adjusted these. It doesn't really take that long, but we're going to adjust this so it's relatively even with that side. Move that over because this is like flush with this. That kind of overlaps. Ignore that. So that should be fine right there. And okay, so now that we have that done, look at that. it kind of looks like our shape. And that's just a mock-up. You just want it to look like the vague details. Now we're going to make the leaves. There's two ways you can do this, and we're going to do this really quick. So this face, this object that I use for the bud, or like this whatever flower shape, the main flower shape, the root, or no, that's not the root. It's the petal of some sort. It's a thing. I don't know botanical stuff. So what we're going to do is make this a leaf. Now, there are two different ways, and I'm going to go through the process right now. So this is kind of like an leaf formation already. So this area right here and this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from object mode to face mode, and I'm just going to, well, first, actually, before I do this, I'll show you the two ways. So duplicate that, drag that over off scene, now do that. And we're going to focus on that, then we're going to delete these faces right here. We're just going to, we don't need them. And now, from here, we're going to take these edges and we're going to drag them outwards. Hold please, I gotta pause for a sec. Alright, and we're back. So we're continuing recording. So we're on this leaf, and we're going to take these edges, left click, shift, left click, multiple selection, and we are going to shift right click, extrude edge. Now this is where Maya gets a little funky in terms of where and what can be done with it. So usually this blue is the direction, excuse me, where you want to go in. So if we notice this, we're like, oh man, this is not the direction we want, because we want it to go to this tip over here, these two tips right here. But if we like drag it backwards, it crisscrosses, and we're like, what's I don't want this at all. What we can do is press Z to kind of retract it to its original state. It's still extruded, and this is why these squares are shown up. So we're going to press W, and this will take us to a translation tool, and it will take us to the center between these two edges and edge points. So we're going to left click and drag this to here. It's about the same thing, doesn't really matter. We're going to, we'll show that anyway, so like it doesn't even matter if this is over here. So what we're going to do now is go into vertex mode, and we're going to merge these points together. This point to this point, this point to this point, this point to this point. We don't want these. We don't want multiple vertices in the same place. It makes no sense, and that breaks a lot of things in games, and it's bad for texturing. It's just bad. Don't do it. So we're going to do shift right click in vertex mode, merge vertices, merge vertex tool. I'm going to left click, drag. You're going to see this red line. It's going to see its end position is the target. So this is that end position, and it's going to be in perfect sync with that. Left click again, left click and drag again, left click and drag again. Alright, now we got this leaf kind of formation, and we go back to object mode. Note that the center pivot is over here, over here, and I really don't want that there. So what we can do is actually center the pivot with a tool called center pivot. So you're going to go up on your dashboard and go to modify, center pivot. That didn't do it because my object was not selected. So modify, center pivot. It's right there. Yay! Okay, so we're going to rotate this really quick to a position where we want. So let's reference the image that we have right here, this one, and then kind of do it in that formation. I'm actually going to squeeze that out just a bit to get more thickness in it, and we're going to shrink it down proportion wise, left click and drag into the position that we want. So it's about right here, and actually this needs to be a little bit shorter, but I really don't care for right now since it's just a mock-up. And I'm going to Control D this, and I'll duplicate it, rotate it. Pretty much, we're done. That looks about as solid as can be. Maybe shrink that a bit. And Tighten it up. Whatever. This really doesn't matter at this point. It looks pretty much like our badge. Now, I don't want these pointy ones, so we're going to delete those and go back to this other way that I had duplicated earlier before. So I'm going to drag that over. And we don't, this time around, we're not going to actually delete any of the faces. We're actually going to modify them with the translation and scale and vertex modes. So I'm going to so this pretty much has the roundish shape of this bottom shape of this leaf. So we're essentially we're just going to move around these vertices up here. So vertex like these up here, highlighted in yellow, and we're going to make them look like a leaf. And this is how. So if this is our base, we want this to kind of look round. So we can do a number of things. We can select these individually, but to keep the symmetry of each side, I like to do Shift, left click, and select both of them that are going to be, it's like the same side. That makes sense for symmetry. If you don't know what symmetry is essentially identical sides. There's nothing unique about the actual object besides its actual shape, but there's two sides that look exactly the same. It's a mirror reflection of if you cut it in half. So now that I've kind of got this roundish shape, I'm using the scale tool to go in, out, in, out. It's different than using the translate tool, which is just shifting from left to right, up and down, etc., and or rotation, which just does this in a weird way. So Z again. What I want to do now is I want to drag these four pivots, these four, not pivots, these vertices down here, because I kind of want this round shape that it's got going on. And I'm going to scale this out. And I got this round base shape. I'm going to take these other four these vertices, and I'm going to kind of drag them, and we're going to spread that out with scale mode, R. And that actually doesn't look that bad. And maybe we'll just bring this in a little bit more. And you know what we're going to do? This shape that I want, it's actually, we can lower the poly count. And this is how. This vertice can be combined with this one. This is because, although it might look complicated with this like web of like so many things, it looks crappy. With a texture, it's not going to look bad. So we're going to do this really quick because it's really late and I need to go to bed, and so do you. And by the time this uploads, it'll be 12 or something like that because my renderer is slow. So what we're going to do is merge these two vertices together. Actually, there's four of them, but we're going to do the top ones first. So we're going to, this is object mode. We're going to go to vertex mode, and with this one selected, we're going to go merge vertices, merge vertex tool, drag that to this one, it's going to lock, and then merge this one to that one. Left click to do that same one. And now we've got this leafy green shape, and it's actually pretty good looking. So what we're going to do is going to center the pivot by going to modify, center pivot, and we're going to stretch that out a bit just so it looks even more leafy than before. If you really want, it's got to look exact. It's almost exactly like this. So this is me iterating on just the leaves. This is one part of the process that you need to work on. Lots of, I think I said it before, it's just a lot of work. A lot of hours spent in Maya and technology, software in general. Why is that tilted? I have no idea. So luckily this is just a mock-up, and we can kind of shrink that down just a tad bit more, put it over here, and I think we're actually pretty solid in where this is positioned. Then I'm going to duplicate it, Control D, and we're going to rotate that. Oh, that is, what? I don't even know what that is. Rotate it, rotate that a bit, move it about, and we got our gym badge. And it's pretty sweet, and
although it doesn't look like that below, but it doesn't matter for right now. This is the silhouette, and this is the thing we're going to work with, and it looks like that. So actually, we're just going to modify this real quick, vertex mode, drag that in a little bit, and there we go. We have a gym badge, and we're going to make these tomorrow in class, and it's going to be sweet, and we're going to have a good time, and then we're going to make more Pokemon assets, and then by the end of the day, we'll continue work on our Pokemon now that our bone structures are done. All right, see you tomorrow, kids.